going on, everybody? Welcome back to Carson's IH Garage. Today I'm going to be installing a parking brake cable on my Scout 800. I'm going to show you how to do it and how to properly adjust it so you can get as much pull out of it as possible so it doesn't allow your vehicle to slip down a hill when you try and engage the parking brake. It's a pretty simple process. I was able to pick up this nice new parking brake cable from ClassicScoutParts.com, link in the description. They retail for around $100 and it's a very well built cable, and I'll show you some of the details about it. So this is the cable here, fully laid out on my hood here. It's a very nice construction. Everything is crimped on there, and everything's a nice coated connector so it won't rust at all. The cable is very heavy duty rather than stock. The stock one is a lot skinnier than this one, and this is actually a coated cable. Like you could barely feel the ridges, which that allows it to A, not rust so it won't seize up, and B, it allows it to glide really freely through the casing here. And the casing, I believe, is galvanized, so that also prevents it from rusting. And it's got all the necessary little connectors, and they included the hardware to install your little clevis here, which you have to save from your old one when you pull it off. And it has the nice threaded end too, to allow you to thread that on, along with the jam nuts. And this little clip here clips into the end when you install it in your parking brake. So I'm going to pop the hood, and I'll show you how to take your parking brake handle, as long as you have one. I had to purchase one because mine was missing. But show you how to move that down and get the front of the cable installed. And then from there, I'll move under the vehicle and talk about how to take up the slack in the rear portion of the parking brake cable and how to adjust it correctly, so as soon as you pull the handle, you start to engage the parking brake. But first, I want to show you a quick diagram and the tools you'll need for this job. So here I have my service manual opened up to CTS 2190, and it shows a nice diagram of what I have in my Scout. In this case I have the 9x2 brakes. So this is what the setup is going to look like. If you watch my Dana 27 axle shaft video, which I'll link up here, you saw me installing this and kind of explaining how this works. But basically, this little parking brake lever is pulled out by the cable, which takes this and moves it and kind of spreads it so the brake shoes meet up with the inside of the drum, and that's what holds your car, besides you putting it in gear when you want to park it somewhere. So this is crucial to have, because I've put my car in gear sometimes even third gear, and it'll still try and kind of roll down my driveway a little bit, so I had to put a wheel chock in front of it. So this is a must-have if you plan to drive your car on the street. It's just another safety option, and I think it's illegal to not have a parking brake, so it's a good thing we're doing this now. And as far as a diagram of what it looked like it fully installed on the car, here we have a diagram of the drums, that cable, which I'll show you at the rear of the vehicle that I already have installed. It's actually the original one, and it still works good. I just greased it up. So that's gonna pull on this on the inside, and then it's gonna pull through, and then you have this sort of lever, which I'll show you in a little more detail. Actually, here's a good diagram of it. You have the cable to the rear brakes, and then you have this lever that gets pulled on. You have the little clevis here, which is that black piece there, and then your cable is going to run through the frame, kind of click in, and the little part that clicks in is over there, and that is going to run all the way up through, and then come back around into the end of your parking brake lever, and then that is held on under your dash, and that's what, when you pull on it, it cinches up the cable, which cinches up the lever, and the lever is going to give you a mechanical advantage, which allows you to pull that brake out hard enough to put these shoes as far into the drum as possible, which stops your vehicle from rolling and gives you the safety feature. So now I'm going to go under the vehicle and show you how to install it. But before we begin, the tools you'll need for this installation are a pair of needle nose pliers to work the cotter pin on here, and to put in this little spring clip on the end, and two 9/16 wrenches for the jam nuts. So I'm actually going to go under the hood first and anchor down to this point, because from there that'll determine how much slack we have in our cable, and how much we have to thread this on to pull the slack out of that. So I'll show you that first. So here I have my parking brake lever. I was able to dig this one up off eBay. They pop up every once in a while. I paid like 50 bucks for it. It was sandblasted and ready for me to paint, so I just painted it with my favorite black paint. I used a Krylon rust protectant. It's like $4 a can, and it's just great. It's super durable, resists against gas spillage and oil, and if you paint the heads of bolts, it doesn't really come off as long as you're not too aggressive when you're wrenching it or using a socket to get it back on. So in order to make it so your parking brake lever can accept the cable, there are these two things here, and so I already have it pushed out so the cable can slide in. But what you want to do is you want to take this lever and you want to move one of these at a time, because I'll pull it back out for you. There's this little groove right there that engages with one of those. It's kind of like a safety thing. In order to disengage your parking brake, you actually twist it this way and slide it back in, but it stops automatically. So now what you're going to want to do is either use your fingers or take pliers, and you're going to move these little slides. You're going to kind of twist them so they move up and out of the way of that groove so you can push it down. So now there's two of them, so you got to do this twice. And at that point, this handle right here, the edge of it will almost become flush with that. And that allows you to fit the ball end of your parking brake cable into it, and then you pull this back out, and then you clip it in with that little kind of prong clip, and then from there you could move it through the bottom of the vehicle, route it through the little hole in the frame, and then we'll talk about adjusting it. So I'll show you how to do this quick on the end of it. Okay, I just move those one at a time. You kind of have to pull it back a tiny bit so you can move that, and then push it forward, move it back a tiny bit, and then pull that up and push it forward. And now you can see my handle is flush. So now we can move under the hood. Okay, so now I have my little part out, and there's a little opening at the bottom, and that allows you to slide the ball end in here, and once it's in, you kind of pull down and it locks itself in. So now that that's in, you're going to want to go and pull the parking brake up until the prongs are back, or this is back inside, and there's two little grooves on the outside, and that's what you're going to put your little spring clip on. That's going to hold it, so I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I got my cable all routed there and the little clip in there, and I pulled the handle back in so it's normal, just like it'd be sitting in the vehicle, so that little brass part is flush. Now, under the vehicle, I have routed my cable through that hole there. It just sits there, and then it's running to there. I put my two jam nuts on that are included, and I put in my little clevis piece. Now I have the back of the vehicle jacked up, and I can spin the tires freely. So what you want to do is you want to get the feeling for what those spin like when they're free, and then at that point you can go ahead and adjust this, threading it in to pull as much slack out of this as possible. So you see I got a bit more there, so I can go ahead and pop the pin out, and I can move my jam nuts down. Probably just back them off a good amount, just so they're out of the way. Okay, and do like one rotation at a time. So I'll just go for two because it was a lot. Okay, so there's that, and then get your little thing here, and there you go, just like that. And feel the tire. You can still spin really freely, and feel how much slack you have before the cable tension's up. Still a good amount there. So pop it off. I'm gonna do another 2 rotations, and then hook it back on. Okay, and that feels good right there. Like, I got a good amount of slack, but it's nothing crazy. So still rotate my wheel freely, still floats and then stops. And then now I go inside grab my parking brake. Okay, that's set. I could still move it if I set it even more. Now I can't really move it at all. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and take the parking brake off, set in a couple more rotations on that, and until you can pull it about halfway and get all the pull you need out of it is kind of where you want to be. So to make to kind of clear that up a little bit, you want what I'm saying is you want to do it to the point where you have a little bit of slack, so you're not clamping down on the parking brake all the time, so you're not driving with the parking brake on, because obviously this holds tension because I'm having to bring the two ends together, and then every time I want to do this, because this has a big spring on it, this longer lever arm, so so right there, that seems like it's pretty good, but I could even go for a little more, so I think that's what I'm gonna do. So another rotation. And all I'm really doing is pulling the slack out of all the cables and bringing them to this clevis here. So, that's pretty good. There's not a crazy amount of tension on there. Could still rotate my wheel just fine, although I can kind of hear the drum rubbing a bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and back off one full turn and go back on. Okay, hold on. Guys, it's being difficult now. Alright, there we go. So, still got slack. And I don't hear it rubbing as much. So, I'm gonna call that pretty good. And let's give it a yank. Okay. That's pretty good. I could still move it, but if I'm really sitting in there, I can get a good pull on it. Now the tire doesn't move. So I'm gonna sit in there. I'm gonna release the brake. And I'm gonna sit in the car real quick after I lower the vehicle down, and I'm gonna give it a good pull and see how far I can get. The trick. I sat in there and I made a comfortable pull on it, like I was just sitting, and I'm about to get out of my car, and I set the parking brake before I go in and go grocery shopping or something. And I did that. I jacked it back up, and now I try to move the tire, and it only moves when like I can feel the hub moving inside the drum because the drums are a little worn, but tire does not move at all. So it's a perfect setting. So now what you want to do, take those jam nuts, lock them down, and you're all set to go. So one thing too, if you're putting in a parking brake cable and your brakes are a bit worn out, mine are brand new, have 0 miles on them, but if your brakes are a bit worn out, you might want to look into using the adjuster wheel to spin it out, to expand your shoes a little bit, and get them set correctly. Because at that point, then you can go ahead and install your parking brake, do the adjustment just like I showed you. And these drum brakes don't have the adjuster where if you use the parking brake, it'll automatically adjust them out. They're not that complicated. I believe I could add them, but I just haven't yet, and I don't really care to. I'm not too concerned about it. If they need to be adjusted, use a little tool or pop the drum off and rotate them out a little bit. But make sure you do that if you have old brakes. But if you have new brakes and you set them right to begin with when you install them, then you just have to follow the step here when setting the adjustment there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it entertaining as well as useful. Be sure to click the notification bell for more updates when I post new videos. New video out this coming Wednesday, next Wednesday. Stay tuned for that. Be sure to like, subscribe like I said, and hope you guys enjoyed. Stay safe out there. Take care. Thank you.